Do I need a cue, guys, or are we good to go? Well, good morning, everyone, to this, and welcome to this virtual event, this historic event here on the South Side Atlanta at the YMCA. We're coming to you live here from the historic Andrew and Walter Young Family YMCA grounds here for the purpose of breaking ground on the third At Promise Center here for the city of Atlanta. Good morning, I'm Dave Wilkinson. I'm President and CEO of the Atlanta Police Foundation. I want to thank all of you all that are tuning in to the call this morning and viewing us on television. I want to thank our speakers here this morning. You'll hear from each of them, starting with our Honorable Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, Dr. Walter Young, Lauren Kuntz, the CEO from the YMCA, Chief Rodney Bryant from the Atlanta Police Department, our Honorable Council Member from District 11, Marcy Overstreet, right there, Marcy, and then Joe Arnold from Truist Corporation. Joe, thank you for being here. And let me start, if I could, by thanking all of our donors, especially Truist, for this memorable gift that you've made to make this possible. I also want to thank the Mayor and City of Atlanta and Invest Atlanta for your huge investment for these kids here on the southwest side of Atlanta. I also want to thank the Dr. Young, Andy Young, and your family for making this possible and for being here today. I also want to thank each of our youth service providers, which really make this possible. Public schools, to Chris 180, Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers Big Sisters, of course YMCA, Urban League, Raising Expectations, and many, many more. If I've forgotten you, I apologize, but the key to our success is really all of those partnerships. Next, I want to thank our implementation team. I was just talking to the mayor about the wonderful work being done by all the contractors to make this job possible. It starts with Carter. Carter, I can't tell you, Bob Peterson, Scott Taylor, and their team at Carter have been absolute superstars in this project. I was telling the mayor earlier that no one working on this project is making a profit. Everyone is committed to do this for the benefits of the kids in the city of Atlanta, and the work that Carter has done through now the third At Promise Center is just remarkable, all the man hours they're spending. Next, I'd like to thank Brassville and Goree. I think some of these folks are here. You see the construction site behind me. These guys are out here working themselves to death, and I cannot thank them enough for, again, this will be the third At Promise Center that Brassville and Goree has built with actually no profit, building it pro bono. I also want to thank the engineers, the architects, and all the other contractors that have worked on this project. I was saying to the mayor again how inspiring it is that everybody is working on this project collectively for the benefit of these kids. So those of you all that are viewing on television that don't know much about the At Promise Center, I think it's probably best to start and talk about the genesis of how the Police Foundation was started. And as you can imagine, the At Promise Center was started. And the idea was that we brought the youth service providers all together with the police department and the city of Atlanta, and we had a conversation about crime in Atlanta, and are we doing all we can to serve these young men and women in our city? And some remarkable stats jumped out at me, and that was, first of all, about 50 to 60% of the crime in the city of Atlanta we projected was perpetrated by young people between the ages of 12 and 24. Now think about that. That's something to take seriously. But more importantly, and what really brought me to my knees, was the stat that said that every young man that commits a felony offense has a 70 to 90% likelihood to reoffend. Now think about that. In a 5-year period, they're going to reoffend. Think about the trajectory of that young man if you're saying 70 to 90%. Fulton County put out statistics later that year showing that 88% of those that had been arrested for a felony had reoffended. So that pretty much validated that. The next thing we found out is all the service providers, when we asked, what are you doing for kids once they've been arrested? Or what are you doing in the way of a diversion program? And most of the youth service organizations pointed out that it was a liability for them for a young man to be in their center that had a felony arrest record. So therefore, we found that there weren't a lot of services being provided to these kids. And then next, of course, the mayor and the chief and I are so focused on making sure the relationships between the Atlanta Police Department and these kids are fostered, that the Atlanta Police Department makes part of their culture that mentoring the young men and women of the city of Atlanta is job one. And in fact, we often say that if a police officer doesn't understand that, they've probably got no business being an Atlanta police officer in the city of Atlanta. So we started the conversation about what if. What if we could go into our more crime-ridden areas of the city and we could build a youth center that would serve as a diversion center? We would invite all the service providers to work there so they could bring in their collective subject matter expertise, working with these kids, taking away the liability because the Police Foundation would accept all that liability. And the police officers could be at this center working with these kids, mentoring these kids. And then what if, when a police officer arrests a young